Hey guys, guess what? I'm going to go back to Robert Penn Warren's Birthplace because I found out that that house is actually a little museum, which was closed the day I went. But I looked it up online and it's open today from 11:30 on. And I want to introduce you to my little alien friend. Steve from Midwest Flesh sent me this. I won a trivia contest and that was one of the prizes. So I take him everywhere with me now. So he's my little companion. I haven't named him yet. So if you come up with a name, just put something in the comments. I'm going to name this little guy because he goes everywhere. Also, I'm going to go back to the cemetery to look some more to see if I could find his grave. So I'm off and I'll see you in a little bit. Hopefully I'll be able to film the museum. See you in a minute. Okay guys, I'm so happy that I came this morning. So remember when I was here the other day and I walked this whole section here to try and find the Warren grave? Well, guess what? This is where I stopped, but right across the way is right here the Warren grave, the Warren family plot. So this nice lady here, she works for City Hall. She's logging all the graves to put them into the computer to make it easier for people to find what they're looking for. So I asked her if she knew where the Warren family plot was, and she said, yeah, she walked me right over to it. Isn't that awesome? It was meant to be. So this is the big stone. Right here. And then right in front of the big stone are the graves. They're a little hard to read. But this must be Robert Warren's father, 1869 to 1955, because he was also named Robert. And then this is actually Robert Penn Warren. You can see it. Robert Penn Warren. He is the Pulitzer Prize winning author that they made a movie out of one of his books. It's very hard to read this. But this is a cenotaph. He is not buried here. He's buried in Vermont, I believe, with his wife. But he requested a stone be put here with his in his family plot. Before he died, he requested that, so that's why this is here. So Robert Penn Warren, born Guthrie, Kentucky, 1905, buried. He's buried in Stratton, Vermont. He died in 1989. It says in memoriam. So there you go. And then I don't know if this is his mom. I would think his mom would be buried next to his dad, but I don't know what PROC means. Alice B. Warren, 1913 to 1967. And there's another Warren here. I'm not sure who this is either. W. Thomas Warren, 1911 to 1985. Let's see. Oh yeah. So this was Robert Warren, the father, his wife, Ruth P. Warren, 1876 to 1931. So she died a long time before her husband. She died in 1931, Ruth did. And Robert died in 1955. Well, now we can move on to see the museum. It doesn't open till 11:30, but I'm going to be there right when it opens because it's early. But yeah, this is the family plot right here. of the Warrens. So there you go, guys. So as soon as you pull in the cemetery, I don't know which, if you're coming from that direction, whatever the other direction is, and you pull in this gate, just go past the first row and it's right here. Man, I wish I knew how to do Find a Grave. I would do a Find a Grave for him and tag it. But anyway, look for the big stone that says Warren right when you pull in, and you'll find it. Okay, I'll see you at the museum, guys. Oh. And, hold on. I've got Alien Man with me. So we're visiting. Wow, you guys, it looks like here in the cemetery where Robert Penn Warren is buried, or his cenotaph is, someone else was just buried. Looks like maybe Douglas. Looks like if this was his wife Pauline. She passed away in 2014. He was born in 1933 and obviously most likely passed away in 2024, not long ago. So rest in peace to Douglas. Just had to show you that while I'm here, because I never seen anything like this. It kind of looks like they ran out of dirt to fill this grave. I mean, it's kind of weird how it looks. Unless they're waiting for it to go down. Beautiful little angel statue here on a bench. Unless they're waiting for it to go down to fill it some more. But rest in peace to both of you. Here's an interesting little grave, guys. It's the Johnsons. And it's got in memory of number 5, I think. Yeah, in memory of K5, it says. K5, and they put K5 on the car. He must have been, one of them was a race car driver. Because look, they got Napa cars here. Another one on this side. I think the brothers were. So I think Mike, August 16th, 1953 to October 7th, 2007. And David, October 11th, 1959 to December 31st, 2015. I think they were brothers. And then I guess Teresa is Mike's wife. But what I found interesting on the back of the reason I know this stuff, if you look at the back of the stone, it says Johnson brothers, side by side in life, side by side in death. So I think they were race car drivers together, and they were obviously brothers. So rest in peace to Mike, David, and Mike's wife, Teresa. Here's another grave, guys. I'm not really sure what happened to Jerry Wayne Harris, but he sure was loved. You can see that. It says, forever loved and missed. Turn the deuce loose. Jerry Wayne Harris, July 18th, 1971 to July 25th, 2008. Our precious memories and love for Jerry will be in our hearts for eternity. He is and will be forever missed. Love you, Ma. There's a little car there. I think it was, 37 years old. And on the back of it, it just says Harris. We love you, Daddy, Ainsley and Jerry Jr. Love you, bro, Tommy, Dan, and David. Loving son of Barbara and Dan. I love these edge stones. They're just so pretty. Really beautiful. There's another edge stone over here. It says Robertson. Daughter of Jennifer and David Bellamy and Mike Robertson, sister of Blake Robertson. She had a MySpace or something. Because she's got a www.myspace.com/Malia_Brooks_loves_you. I never seen that before in a grave. Looks like she might have died before her parents, the way that's worded. Beautiful family, though. Let's see if the back says anything. Oh, yeah. Malia Brooks Robertson, February 5th, 1991 to May 26, 2007. Way too young. You know, what happened to her? Beautiful etching. Well, rest in peace, Malia. And one more beautiful etched stone for Tiggleman. It's all trees. And on the front of it says Tiggleman. It says they had faith, they had to have hope, and they demonstrated and shared much love. So we've got Terry over here, who it looks like he's still alive. He's on a tractor. And then we have Judy Gale Actley, born September 16th, 1949, and died October 16th, 2017. And that's Judy. Looks like they might have been farmers. She's got a John Deere sweatshirt on that picture. And then they have a little "The Lord is My Shepherd" poem here. It looks like it lights up at night, because look at the top. So that's beautiful. And somebody put a pretty little vase here too. Or a little, it's not a vase, it's just a little plaque. I don't know what that is. Looks like it's a little weathered. But that's a beautiful stone, huh? Okay, I guess I'll just move on now. Oh, there's one over here with a picture on it. So I want to see that. I love the stones that have pictures. Looks like it's for climber. It says "Together Forever." Climber. And it looks like Gail's still alive. But DR passed away January 13th, 1955 to August 8th, 2010. So rest in peace, DR. Let's see if there's something on the back. Oh, look at that. Beautiful. Okay, I'm gonna move on to the museum now. For real. Okay, one more thing, guys. Look at this lonely little angel sitting here all by itself on an empty patch of grass. So obviously this is a burial site for a loved one. So rest in peace to whoever's buried here. Got an angel watching over you. I have a little time before the museum opens for Robert Penn Warren, guys. So I thought I'd show you a little bit of the town from where his house is in the museum. So Guthrie, Kentucky was a railroad town. So they're big on trains around here. As you could see, I got stuck the other day by a long old freight train. But that's their old Opry house. I think it's still in use. A lot of things are shut down here. But you got to see the City Hall. Right here. This is City Hall, guys. smallest city hall I've ever seen. Guthrie City Hall, right here. And then I was looking for this the other day because they were an old railroad town. They have these trains all over the place. And here's one of them that's pretty popular to visit right here. Oops. Right here. Kind of a cool looking little train. It's in the middle of a nice little lawn in the middle of town here. Actually, town is probably, I don't know, 3 blocks long. It's a very small town. Very, very small town. Very old small town. But yeah. That's it. I'm gonna go back so I could get a picture here, guys. Here we go. That's good. Right here. Well, there you go. We're gonna go to the museum next. The House Museum. So guys, we are back at 3rd and Cherry Street in Guthrie, Kentucky. And hopefully we'll get a tour of this home that was the birthplace of Robert Penn Warren. And now they turned it into a museum, I found out, which I didn't know the other day when I was here, but that's okay because it was closed. So it opens at 11. I still got about 4 minutes left. So I'm going to walk around and go on up to the door once the time comes. But we're back. Hopefully she'll let me film. By the way, this little thing up here, let's see what it says. Oh, it's open at 11:30. Oh, I got a little more time. Ooh, what am I gonna do? So, Robert Warren's Birthplace Museum. Hours. 11:30 to 3:30, Thursday to Saturday. Okay, I guess we're gonna come back in a half an hour. Wish there was a place to eat around here. I'm a little hungry. It says closed right now, but I'll be back. 122 Cherry Street in Guthrie, Kentucky, guys. We're on the porch though. This is the little porch that goes around the house. And this is what you look out to from the porch. So, I'll be back in a little bit, I suppose. I'm not going home this time. I'm a little early, guys, about a half an hour before I can get into the museum. So I decided just to come and have something to eat here at a little place in Guthrie. It's called American Cafe. So I'm going to go in and I'll show you what they got.
It looks like you've left the route, so I'll reroute you.
No, I didn't leave the route. So this is it, guys, right here. We're going to go in and I'll show you.
Head southwest on North 2nd Street.
Okay, guys, so far I'm pretty impressed. This is a little country restaurant. Very small. This is how big it is. That's it, right here. And the gentleman there behind the counter is so friendly. He keeps calling me ma'am. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. But I ordered I forgot what I ordered. Either, I think a BLT. Bacon, lettuce, and tomato sandwich, which I haven't had in ages. And I ordered fries. And this is just a glass of water. But I'll show it to you when I get it. So guys, this is my BLT sandwich and fries. Looks good. Supposed to have mayo on there, lettuce, tomato, bacon, and of course my water. I'll let you know how it tastes. Looks good though, I'm hungry. Well guys, I just finished my sandwich and now I'm headed back to the museum. It was good. I mean, it was good. It was okay. The bacon was a little crispier than I like on a BLT. I like softer bacon on a BLT. Actually, I like softer bacon anyway. I don't like it real crispy. But really friendly people. Super friendly. Just stop there because of the friendliness. It'll make your day happy. So I'm headed back to the museum. Hopefully by now it should be open and I can video it. We'll see. One thing I noticed, guys, about Guthrie, Kentucky, there's a lot of abandoned stores. This whole road that I walked down, almost every one of these buildings here is abandoned. That's abandoned. Just everything is so dead, which is really sad. I love these little towns, and I bet you this little town was really quaint, and it still seems like a nice little hometown. I mean, I wouldn't mind living here. It seems like a safe place to live. There's a little train that I showed you before. Now, I don't know if this place is abandoned. McGee Engineering, it doesn't look like it. Well, it kind of does. No, there's cars next door, so unless they're there for the big city hall. There's a salon here that looks like it's still open. But I just wanted to tell you that. Because it's really eerie when you walk past these places and there's nothing there. There's a jalapeno grill there. I don't know if they're still open. Oh, a couple firefighters maybe walked out, so yeah, it looks like they are. Good. Glad to see that. These are the old buildings here. Okay, I'm going back to the House Museum. See you in a sec. I know I keep saying that, but I'm getting there. By the way, guys, as I approach the museum, I never showed you this side because I wasn't on this side last time. So this is the yard that is attached to the museum. Looks like someone's here and the lights are on. You see lights on right there. So that's a good sign. Looks like we'll be able to go in, but it's a very cute yard. Nice iron fence around it. Very well maintained building. So this is the back of it. And the little garage next to it. Look at how it's peeling on the bottom. But I'm excited to go in, so see you in a sec, hopefully inside. I'll let you know. You'll find out with me. Okay guys, so I'm gonna go on this tour here, and this nice man is gonna take me.
I'm Dale Wetterham, the executive director of the museum.
Thank you.
Well, the house was built in 1890, and it's been on the National Register of Historic Sites as part of the Guthrie Historic District since 2011. This is the birth house of three-time Pulitzer Prize winner, first poet laureate of the United States, Robert Penn Warren.
Yeah, incredible.
He was born here in April of 1905. And the family only lived here for a short time because, as you'll see, it's a small house, and so they had more children and started getting crowded.
Did they stay in Guthrie when they moved?
They did. They rented this house. Then they rented another house while they were building a house here in Guthrie, and eventually they moved out to the country. But they stayed in Todd County there, during his entire childhood.
Mm.
So
that's incredible that this man was born here. To me, I think,
Well, you wouldn't expect to see it, but I'm going to tell you something else you wouldn't expect to see in the next room. So this is their parlor. And back in the 1900s, parlors were kind of a big deal because if you had a parlor, you were somebody because you could entertain guests. Sometimes people will say, "Oh, well, it's the equivalent of a family room." Actually, no, it's not. A lot of times these, walls would have a pocket door that keeps the kids out.
Oh, true. Yeah.
So this room was just for entertaining. So if you could entertain, you were somebody. So this is Robert Penn Warren's mother and father, Robert Franklin Warren.
Oh, okay. That's where I was just at the cemetery. They were buried there. Okay.
Ruth Anna Penn Warren.
Yep.
Robert Penn Warren on the Penn side is related to William Penn of Pennsylvania fame.
I was wondering.
He is. And his great-great-great-grandfather, Abram Penn, was a colonel in the Continental Army. And his brother, John Penn, signed the Declaration of Independence for North Carolina.
Wow.
So I have some pictures here. Robert Penn Warren was married twice. He was married to a lady from Italy, and she was kind of unstable.
Is that this one?
No, ma'am.
No, that's...
I'll show a picture of her later.
Oh, okay.
She was kind of unstable. She didn't like the United States. She had a very haughty European attitude. Right. His friends at Vanderbilt, the fugitive poets, they couldn't stand her. Many of them wouldn't even be in the same room with her. Oh. She fancied herself an author, although she never published a single thing. And they were all authors. They were all published authors, so they didn't like her haughtiness, Eventually, she got tired of the United States. She moved back to Italy, and Warren basically mailed her the divorce papers.
Smart man. Sounds like a smart man.
This lady here was the love of his life, Eleanor Clark, and she was a published author. She had, I think it was about 5 novels that she published. And they had 2 children. They had Gabriel and Rosanna. Gabriel is an artist.
Which one is Gabriel?
Gabriel is the male right here.
Okay.
And this is Rosanna. She's a poet and college professor.
Wow.
Yeah, a lot of times
quite
people
a family.
Who are very intelligent don't have a lot of common sense and can't hardly tie their shoes.
Very true.
But Warren was a multi-talented individual. He turned these candlesticks on a lathe and gave them to some friends for their wedding gift.
Wow.
And years later, when their daughter found out where they came from, she sent them back to the museum. So that's how we ended up with them. Here we have the Warren grandparents, Sarah and William Warren, and Mary Mitchell and Gabriel Warren. I'm not entirely sure what his involvement was with the Warren grandparents, but he was very involved with the Penn parents. He never met his grandmother because she died before he was born. But he was very involved with Gabriel Penn. He would stay summers over in Cerulean Springs near Hopkinsville with his grandfather. And his grandfather told him stories. Both of his grandfathers were Confederate veterans. Gabriel Penn told Warren that he thought slavery was an outmoded institution prior to the Civil War. But when Virginia was invaded, he joined the Confederate Army, as many Southerners did. Now, he was a cavalryman, and he rode with the famous or infamous cavalry commander Nathan Bedford Forrest. At one point, Forrest told him to go back to at that time he was living in Tennessee, told him to go back to his home county and raise a company of cavalry. So sometime later, he returned with a company of cavalry, and he commanded them the rest of the war. So he was, and at one point, I don't know how much bushwhacking went on, because at some point he had the reason he moved to Kentucky is because he had a price on his head in Tennessee.
Wow. Now the picture here, that's
Warren, yeah.
That's what I thought. Okay, so this is Warren.
1921, that's, I believe, his graduation picture.
Oh, wow. You've got some great pictures here.
Yeah. Well, here's some more.
For sure.
This is the Robert Franklin Warren family. Robert Franklin, Ruth Anna. This is Robert Penn Warren here in the center, dressed like a girl.
Yeah, that's how they were back then.
They did. His sister Mary and his little brother William Thomas. I read something or saw something on TV about Ernest Hemingway. One of the reasons why he was such a daredevil is because his mother dressed him like a girl almost into his teens.
Oh wow,
So,
that's
yeah, he had.
I'm surprised he didn't have a little bit of a fit about that
He
later.
pretty much had something to prove there, but anyway, this is Robert Franklin Warren. He founded and helped run the bank here in Guthrie, and he also had a shop that he was in charge of. Robert Penn Warren's mother died in her 50s from cancer, but his father lived into his 80s, so this was the family later on, Robert Penn Warren, Mary, and William Thomas, they called him. Thomas stayed in Guthrie. His sister Mary was a school teacher, as was his mother. Warren was in the state militia, which is to say the National Guard, not like Nazis or any of that. Mm-hmm. And he went to a training camp at Fort Knox for 6 weeks, and that was where he published his first poem. It was called "Prophecy" in the Mess Kit, which was the Post newspaper. Warren wanted to have a military career. At one point, he had an appointment to Annapolis. He was going to have a naval career. But his brother was throwing a rock up in the air one time, and it landed right on his left eye.
Oh, I read about that.
And
yeah.
Later in his life, he had to have that eye removed because it kept getting infected, but it effectively put an end to his military aspirations.
Yeah.
But if you do the math, he'd have been about the right age to have been a captain during World War II. So maybe he'd have lost his ship and we'd have lost him.
Yeah, it's true.
Things happen
Fate,
for a reason.
you know. Things happen. You're right.
Well, you don't expect to find a Pulitzer Prize winning author from Little Guthrie, but you wouldn't expect to find that and a major league pitcher.
Oh.
And they were friends.
Oh wow.
This is Kent Greenfield. He did 9 years in professional ball, 3 in the minors, 6 in the majors. He played for the New York Yankees, the Giants, the Brooklyn Dodgers, the Boston Braves became the Atlanta Braves, and the Philadelphia A's, which is now the Oakland A's.
Wow, that's yeah, who wouldn't think? Little bitty Guthrie, right?
Yeah, and it was very unusual because Warren was kind of this brainy individual, and
Yeah, true.
Here was this super jock here, but they were good friends. And Warren was always described as being small for his age. And if your family is from a certain geographical area, especially in rural America, and you do anything too embarrassing to your family name, if Daddy doesn't, Grandpa's going to come at you with a belt.
Yeah.
But there were kids living in Guthrie, and they were the children of railroad workers. They moved around all the time, almost to the point of being transient. So they didn't have these societal constraints, and they didn't like this Warren guy. He had all the answers, and he was making them look bad. So they bullied him fairly extensively. They threw him down a well one time. Another time they hung him up by his heels in a barn. Kent Greenfield found him. And like I said, he was, Warren was considered small for his age. He never got over 6 feet. But Kent Greenfield was 2 years older than him, and he was 6'1", and he was a football player in high school. Wow. So I get this feeling that 6'1" football player, Kent Greenfield's around. Nobody messed with Robert Penn Warren at all. So Warren was clearly the sidekick in that relationship. But one thing that Greenfield did not have a lot of patience for Warren was sports. Now, he taught him how to swim, and he taught him how to hunt, and they would go hunting together. But he tried to make him the catcher when they played ball, I guess at the sand lot, as you would say. And the problem was that Warren had to stand 50 feet behind the plate, and it still hurt his hand to catch Kent Greenfield's pitches, so he put him in left field.
There's an answer to everything.
Yeah, that's right.
How interesting.
Well, Warren graduated from the Bethel Training School here in Guthrie. Now that's not here anymore, but it was originally a trade school and it became the high school here in town. And the high school's moved to Elkton now. This is a picture of him in elementary school.
Oh, wow. Very cool.
Now, sometimes people repeat a grade in school for whatever reason, and Warren, arguably a genius, he repeated a grade in school. And the reason being is you can't go to Vanderbilt University when you're 15. He graduated from high school here in Guthrie at 15. His mother was a teacher. She knew his mind would atrophy if he just sat around. Plus, she didn't want him kicking around the house for a year. So she put him on the train, sent him to Clarksville. He graduated a second time, from high school in Clarksville a year later.
So funny.
This is the only piece of furniture that we have from the Warrens. This is called a secretary, and his mother, Ruth, gave it to the Methodist Church. And years later, when the museum was founded, they gave it back to the museum. Now, like I said, he spent summers over in Cerulean Springs near Hopkinsville in his youth, and there was a fellow over there named John Venable, and he created this thing he called a circus in his attic. We have one of his elephants here. The rest of his animals and the rest of the circus are over in Hopkinsville at the museum over there. But this impressed him to the point where he wrote this short story called Circus in the Attic. Also in that book is a story about Kent Greenfield's called Goodwood Comes Back. After Kent Greenfield's professional ball career, he came back to Guthrie and lived the rest of his life here. In addition, Warren wrote this poem, American Profile Old Style, or American Portrait Old Style, sorry. And inside in that poem, he calls his friend Kent Greenfield K. Now, the Goodwood Comes Back is based on Greenfield's return. It's not an exact story of him, because in this story, Goodwood is murdered by his brother-in-law, but Kent Greenfield lived until 1978. So
thank goodness it wasn't true.
This is the house that Warren lived in Prairieville, Louisiana, when he was teaching at the University of Louisiana in Baton Rouge.
Is that one of his poems, or
Yes.
Evening Hawk?
Mm-hmm. He wrote a couple of poems about the hawk. A lot of the exhibits here in the museum are based on his poems or his books. This is called a Morris chair, and he wrote about the old Morris chair. Apparently, they had one. His father and mother had purchased one, and when his father would come home from a long, hard day of counting money at the bank, he would, sit in this chair and smoke a pipe or whatever, waiting for dinner. This is his.
That's really comfortable.
Yeah, it's the original recliner.
Wow.
This is his father and teller at the bank. This picture here is Robert Penn Warren at about age 1.
Oh, wow.
These are his shoes.
Oh my goodness.
I'm not entirely sure how it is we have his shoes, but there they are.
That's pretty cool. And it's unusual to see the color. Usually you see these white baby shoes.
Yeah.
And these are dark. That's
No,
neat.
maybe they were white once upon a time.
Maybe.
Those are
They're like little boots.
119 years old, so.
Wow.
It might have faded since then, but we also have Kent Greenfield's pants. Once upon a time, we had the jersey and this signed ball, but they used to keep the uniforms laying over the back of this chair. Someone stole the jersey.
You've got to be kidding me.
I'm not kidding.
That's awful.
People do that sort of thing. I don't
Yeah,
know what the point is, but they do.
I don't either. It's really...
Kent Greenfield raised hunting dogs throughout the rest of his life.
Now, did he stay in Guthrie all his
Yes, he stayed here in Guthrie. Robert Penn Warren came back to visit his friend Kent Greenfield and his brother Thomas, but he never lived in Kentucky again. One can understand why.
Yeah.
Bad memories.
Yeah.
And, honestly, it's a rural community, kind of salt of the earth type place. And I think that until Warren got to Vanderbilt, nobody understood him. Nobody got him.
Yeah, he was ahead of his time.
Yes, he was just, he was super intelligent and super artistic, and nobody could really understand him. Once he got to Vanderbilt and met with the fugitive poets, they understood him, because they were like him. So he felt at home there, He would come back to visit his friends and his brother, but he never lived in Kentucky again.
Interesting.
This room here is called the library, but this is another one of the bedrooms, and it's actually the bedroom that Warren was born in. Warren's works were translated into about 30 languages. We have copies here of French, German, Italian, Spanish, Polish, Norwegian, Finnish, Dutch, Danish, Croatian, Russian, and Mandarin Chinese.
Good for you that you can memorize all that.
It took a while to figure those out. A lot of the languages have Cyrillic characters, so it's hard to put them into Google to figure out what they are.
Yeah. Wow, this is a great little museum. Really done up well.
This is a photograph taken by Anne Leibowitz. She liked to put people in, odd positions, like with their shirt off. I'm not going to take my shirt off to get a photograph of me.
Right.
But a lady visited once, and she was Rosanna Warren's college roommate, and she told us that he was very physical. They went to, the lady went with Rosanna to their place in, I believe it was Connecticut once, and he was, at around that age, he was building a set of stairs down to the lake, and he was hoofing railroad ties around.
Wow.
So he was very physical.
Oh, I'll say.
And he wasn't your typical, geek. He, like I said, he was into hunting, and originally he wanted to be a naturalist when he went to college. It wasn't until after he got to, Vanderbilt and got hooked up with the fugitive poets that he began writing his poetry. Got a number of first editions we got from Floyd Watkins. He's a professor from Emory University. This is a portrait that was given to us by Rosanna Warren, his daughter. We like it a lot. It's just a very good, look for him.
Yeah, it looks great.
Yeah.
Bet you it's pretty when the light's on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I need to charge up the light.
Oh, is that a charger?
Yeah. It's a battery operated deal. So Warren grew up here in tobacco country. This is a tobacco smoking barn here. A lot of people in the area, people from up north or whatever, they don't know that how tobacco is processed, how this type of tobacco is processed. And you have to build a fire under it because dark tobacco has such a high moisture content. Burley tobacco, you hang it up, it dries. If you hang up dark tobacco, it will just rot. So you have to build a fire under it to force the moisture out of it. So almost inevitably, around this time of year in the fall, when they're smoking the tobacco, Someone will call the fire department and say, "There's smoke coming out of this barn." Well, they say, "Yeah, it's a smoking barn. It's supposed to be smoke coming out of it." And Warren wrote this poem called "Bearded Oaks." I believe it was in Louisiana, where he saw these trees with Spanish moss.
That's beautiful, that picture.
Yeah. After his graduation here in Guthrie, he went to the Clarksville High School. This is him in his retirement, or what do you call it? Graduation
very last.
picture. Yeah, and he was known as Red by his friends. In fact, a lot of the books in Floyd Watkins' collection are signed to Red. You know, so this is the actual high school down there in Clarksville. It's still there. It was expanded once or twice, and it's not being used as the high school anymore, but it's been remodeled. It's called the Penn Warren Apartments.
Oh, wow.
So the Austin P State University students use it as a dorm.
Oh, okay.
Warren wrote a poem about this covered bridge over in Port Royal, and it's not there now. It was taken out by a storm a few years ago. The pillars are still there, and this is where Kent Greenfield taught him how to swim. But supposedly the story goes that they would run over here to go swimming and then run back. But this is a 16-mile round trip.
Oh, jeez.
And so I'm thinking to myself, well, how fast were his little feet moving to keep up with 6'1",
Yeah.
you know, Kent Greenfield? This room here would have been their dining room. This was their kitchen back here. It's just my office.
Oh, okay.
See, a lot of people know that Warren's, was involved in literature. They just don't know all the different genres he was involved in.
Yeah, there's more to him than I thought.
Yeah, he did novels and the poetry, of course. He did some children's books. He did some textbooks with his friend, Kenneth Brooks.
Someone needs to make a movie of his life because he's really interesting.
There's a
documentary.
Yeah, there's a Kentucky education television, public television documentary that there's a link to it on our Facebook page.
Oh, I'll have to look for it.
Yeah, our Facebook is called Robert Penn Warren Birthplace Museum. He was also a social commentator, having grown up early in the 20th century here in the South. He was a product of his environment. He was associated with these writers known as the Southern Agrarians, and they wrote this book called "I'll Take My Stand," and they were extolling the virtues of the Southern agrarian lifestyle, and they asked Warren to write a chapter defending segregation, and he did that. And he basically, his supposition was that it was the best thing for both races. But his ideas were in evolution. When he got away from Kentucky, he started meeting some other people in different places, especially when he went to Europe. Europeans simply could not understand the whole concept of segregation. It just simply didn't make any sense to them.
Yeah.
So when he came back in 1954, he wrote this book, Segregation: The Inner Conflict in the South. And this book is interviews with Southerners, both black and white Southerners. And there was actually one black segregationist, and what his thing was, he did not want the academic and sports stars from the black high school being mixed into the white school, and then they might say, okay, well, they can't be the best because they're black. Mm-hmm. So he wanted to have them stay in their school where they could continue to be, the hot top of the heap as they were. Later on, Warren wrote in 1964, he wrote Who Speaks for the Negro, and this was interviews with civil rights leaders, Malcolm X and Martin Luther King among them. So his ideas were evolving. Now
Yeah.
his friends, the Southern agrarians, they did not. But it seems to have been no bone of contention. You know, he was his own man. He thought what he thought, and you know, and he demonstrated it. So he was doing what he could do for the civil rights movement. In the early 1900s, there was a conflagration in this area known as the Black Patch War. The Black Patch is the southern part of Kentucky and the northern two counties of Tennessee, Montgomery, and the other one escapes me. This was about dark tobacco. And in the early 1900s, there were these robber barons, you know, Rockefeller and Carnegie. There was another one, his name was James Buchanan Duke. Duke was the son of a North Carolina tobacco farmer, and at some point he and his father decided it'd be better to sell the tobacco than to grow it. So he developed a company, and through different, you know, arguably dastardly means, he developed a monopoly. It was known as the American Tobacco Trust. And he had cornered the market on worldwide tobacco sales. And so if you wanted to sell tobacco in the world, you had to sell to him. And so these local farmers who grew the dark tobacco, they had been getting 8 or 10 cents a pound, which doesn't sound like much, but back then it was enough for their tobacco. He started paying them 1 or 2 cents because he could. Well, so they wanted to have collective bargaining. So in 1904, here in Guthrie, they formed the Dark Tobacco Association. This organization had an unofficial military wing. It was known as the Silent Brigade or the Night Riders. And Warren wrote a fictional account of one of the Night Riders.
Oh,
yeah. The definitive history is this book called On Bended Knees by local judge Bill Cunningham. This is one of the yearly meetings that they had here in Guthrie. And the Night Riders were not nice people.
The name doesn't even sound nice.
Here's the way they would dress right here. Oh, wow. So they were not associated with the KKK. In fact, there were black Night Riders. They were agrarians. So this is a couple of leaves of dark tobacco. So this Silent Brigade was commanded by a local physician named David Amos. And these guys were really good. They could assemble a force from multiple counties, and they took over a number of cities in southern Kentucky and burned down his warehouses.
Oh, wow.
They got so good at it that one time over 400 of them took over Hopkinsville, and they actually burned down one of their own. Well, they were trying to burn down 2 of his.
That's a little too good.
So yeah, they got really good at it, but a little too enthusiastic perhaps. But the other thing that they would do is they would show up at a farmer's house at night, and someone that they called hillbillies that hadn't joined the association, and they would say, "Hey, we noticed you hadn't joined the association. You want to, join up, don't you?" Farmers are an independent lot, and a lot of them would say, "No, get off my property. I don't want anything to do with that." So they'd come back a few nights later, and they would do what was called scraping. They would take all of the plants that he was preparing for his tobacco crop that year and cut them off, so that he didn't have any tobacco to plant that year. They only had to do that a couple of times, so when they would show up at a hillbilly's house and said, "Hey, we noticed you didn't join the association. Bring the forms. Give me a pen. I'll sign right now." So, and there
Extortion.
there wasn't like bodies in the street, but there were disappearances. This fella here, Henry Bennett, he was a vocal. Opponent of the Silent Brigade in the Tobacco Association. And so they attacked him one time and beat him up pretty good. And even though they didn't kill him, he never really recovered from his wounds, and his wife wrote "Killed by the Night Riders" on the back of his tombstone. So time went by. Eventually, the Sherman antitrust law went all the way to the Supreme Court, and he lost. So they had to break up the Americans Tobacco Trust. But the Silent Brigade and the association lost also. They started getting sued because of some of the stuff that they were doing, and they started losing. And so this guy has had his teeth pulled. So the use of this association was getting less and less. So more and more people were saying, I don't really want to pay my dues to this organization so that they can go to paid lawsuits. So this organization kind of went by the wayside as well. The final irony here is that when people get to be this age, they don't want to be remembered for stealing from small farmers in Kentucky. They want to be remembered for their philanthropy. So James Buchanan Duke gave a couple of $1 million to a place called Trinity College in Durham, North Carolina, and said, hey, how about change your name to Duke University?
Oh, wow.
Oh, and he gave him a bunch of money to build a new campus, and he gave him a huge endowment because he wanted his university to be a big deal right away. So he says, go find all the greatest professors and bring them here. And so they were forming a med school, and they were trying to decide who to be the director of their med school. Well, David Amos, this local farmer, or this local physician, he was a doctor, who was the commander of the Silent Brigade, he had a son, and the last name of the first director of Duke University's med school was Amos. It was James Buchanan Duke's nemesis here in the Black Patch. It was his son who became the director of his med school. So kind of ironic, small world sort of thing. So here we have the Jefferson Davis Monument, which is less than an hour away from here. And Warren wrote this.
Oh, I think I went by there one day. I was wondering what that was.
Yeah, that's what that is. Jefferson Davis Monument. Warren wrote this book, Jefferson Davis Gets His Citizenship Back. And there's a lot of controversy now about Confederate monuments. And removing monuments is historically irresponsible.
I agree. I don't understand the purpose. It doesn't change history by taking it away.
The thing that is historically responsible is called contextualization. You take another plaque, you put it either on it or near it, and say, that's what they thought then, this is what we think now.
Right, that's
that
perfect.
way children, when they're seeing these, can connect the dots.
Yeah.
If you just take that away, it doesn't make that situation never to have happened, but you can say in a contextualized plaque that we no longer venerate these folks, we think now that they weren't doing right.
Totally agree, 100%.
So,
I don't understand.
So in this case right here, and the thing is that the monuments themselves have historical importance, just the monuments themselves, because a lot of times things that we look at, they give an indication of a mindset at the time. And so all history is about people.
Right.
It's not about events and dates and all that stuff. It's about people and the way people acted. So here in the South, they spent what would have been the equivalent of millions of dollars to erect this statue to who they considered their George Washington. And that mindset is important to remember because, it still largely exists in the South. And I'm originally from the northern part of New York. And my mother one time asked me, well, why can't Southerners get over it? I said, well, Mother, here's the situation. Think about this. You had this boy when you were in school, when you were a kindergartner, and he was unusually large. Maybe he'd been kept back 2 or 3 times. But he was big, and he would knock you down and take your lunch money. You didn't eat lunch that whole year because he would take your lunch money every day of the week. And so, the day after, kindergarten ended, whether he came back in the fall or not, he forgot you even existed. I said, you will remember his face and his name to the day you die. I said, Southerners had their lunch money taken away and they will never forget. It's a fact.
Yeah.
Well, here we have another one of his poems, and if you have time, I have an 11-minute video that reads this poem and talks about the situation involved.
Oh, that's okay. I think I'll skip that video.
Well, what this is this was his first love. He wrote this poem called True Love, and she was 20 and he was 10. So he would stand, on the corner or on the other side of the street and ogle her, basically stalked her for 2 years.
How sweet.
And then she, well, we say that back then. Nowadays, you got arrested. But
yeah.
Anyway, eventually she waved to him and said, "Hi, Robert," and that made his day. He thought he could die a happy man after that. Because she recognized the fact that he was breathing in and out. But, in 2004, I believe it was. Yeah, 2004. The U.S. Postal Service created a stamp, a memorial stamp for Robert Penn Warren.
I can't remember that. I think I do remember that. Oh, man.
This part of the house was not here when he lived here. It was built in 1930.
So it was just
the
an
garage
addition
and his
history.
back porch were built at that time. This was his first wife, Emma Cincinia Brescia from Italy.
Oh, the one that...
Yeah, not entirely stable.
Yeah.
Two of Warren's novels were made into movies. Band of Angels in 1957 and All the King's Men in 1949 and also 2005 was remade.
Yeah.
This book, neither of these are feel-good movies or books. This is about political corruption. And
Yeah.
it's supposedly not based on Huey Long from Louisiana history, but it's very, very similar. It's kind of like Goodwood Comes Back. It was almost a docudrama. And this story here, I think, was very pertinent even today. This story is not about the antebellum South. It's about race relations. And this fella here, Clark Gable, he was a white man, and he had made his money in the slave trade. This lady here was living on a plantation at the beginning of the movie, and she said to her father, she was a little girl, she said to her father, "Daddy, why is Mama not buried in the family cemetery?" And he says, "Well, I wanted her here close to the house to be close to me." So her father dies, and he owes money. So they come to the plantation, they're going to, settle up his debts. So they were going to take his slaves and sell them off to settle the debt. Well, guess what? Her mother was a slave. And the law at the time, whatever your mother was is what you were. It doesn't matter that her father owned her mother. She was a slave, and they snatched her. They said, "You're going to be sold too." So they take her to the slave auction, and these horrible people are drooling, thinking about what they're going to do to her when they bought her. He walks in at the end, throws down like it was $2 million, and buys her, and he doesn't touch her. He's like, "You'll either fall in love with me or you won't." And so he leaves her alone. He's going to let her go, but she follows him around. And the interesting thing about him is he went to a village in Africa. They were there to get slaves, and he had a crew of men with him. And the crew kind of got crazy and started killing people. And so there was a little boy who was crying over his mother that they had murdered, and he loses his stuff. He kills his whole crew. He takes this boy home, raises him, sends him to an education, and he becomes his assistant. And it was, the actor Sidney Poitier played this man. So here you have a black man who's free and his assistant. Here you have a white woman who's a slave.
Yeah.
You see the juxtaposition.
Yep.
And so I think it's an important thing, and I think that it's much more visceral than just saying slavery was bad. Yeah, slavery was bad. I wouldn't want to have been a slave, but to have a situation here where you've got to visualize, what if somebody came at you and said, oh, by the way, you're a slave, we're going to snatch you and sell you somewhere.
Right.
That is something that might stick with people. Hey, I wouldn't want that to happen to me. It must have been horrible for the people that it did happen to, you know. So anyway, that's Band of Angels. Warren wrote a book-length poem about Chief Joseph and the Nez Perce, Northwest Native American tribe, and all of their difficulties and tragic story of their lives. That's the 2005 version.
Just so interesting.
Warren wrote a book called Wilderness: Tale of the Civil War. So we have an exhibit here about the Civil War at that time. That pretty much concludes the.
Did you say the kitchen was over there? Like.
Yeah, the kitchen's my office.
Oh,
There's no
okay, never
exhibits or
mind.
anything in there.
All right, well, this has been great. Thank you
Glad
so
could
much.
come.
I appreciate it.
I've got a number of his books here for sale. We don't make any money on it. It basically just covers the cost and the shipping, just so people can.
So
sample
people
it.
can send in for them,
What's
and
that?
you ship them. If people order them, you ship them.
What are you telling me? You don't have any cash? You can just send me a check.
No. I mean, if somebody wants to order
Oh.
from you that doesn't live out here,
Oh
they
no,
can
I
order
don't
online.
do that. No, I've never done that.
Oh,
But
okay.
Some of these are available on like Amazon or thrift books.
Oh, okay,
But
gotcha.
they're getting harder and harder to find.
Right.
Especially a lot of the more obscure ones are getting harder to find. So I try to keep them in stock, for folks so they can get a look at what his work was like.
Okay, well, I appreciate it. Thank you again.
This is the original ladies. See, this house was going to be bought by Western Kentucky University in Bowling Green. Their intention in 1985, I believe it was to lift the house up and move it an hour away. And the thing is that we've had these bricks repointed, and basically, if you touch the mortar, they would just turn to dust. So if they tried to pick this house up, it would have been just a pile of bricks. So
plus, it's nice to have it where he was actually born.
that's the thing. This lady here, Melba Whitlow Smith, she was a teacher, but she was also a big Robert Penn Warren fan. She, when she found out about this, she says, "I don't think so." And so she assembled this group of ladies, and they convinced the city of Guthrie to buy the house, and then they bought the house from the city. And through this lady here, Jean Moore, she was the muscle of the original committee. She was that lady in town who could get stuff done.
So who owns the house right now?
Right now, the house is owned by it's an organization known as the Committee for the Preservation of the Robert Penn Warren Birthplace in Todd County.
Oh, good.
It's a long
That means it's
corporation.
safe.
Yeah, it's a long name for the corporation that owns the house. So it's a 501c3, and we keep the house open and offer tours, and we're trying to do our best to
Preserve
forward
and keep
the
it.
purpose of knowledge of his works, and that's what some of our exhibits are intended to do, is to pique people's interest and say, I want to read that, let's see what that's about, So
Okay, well, once again, I really appreciate it.
Well, thank
I'm
you so
trying to
much for
beat the
coming.
weather. I know they're supposed to storm later.
I don't know, maybe 3. They said it could.
Well, no, I got a text from Clarksville something or another that said
was going.
3 inches of rain expected, thunderstorms or something.
You know what's strange is that